The Malaysian armored personnel carriers, I can't compliment these guys enough for their courage. They basically kept a driver and a gunner in those vehicles and then handed the rest of it over to us and said,
I kept turning around to this little Malaysian driver. I said, you just drive this thing, get it the hell out of here. And he kept turning back saying, no, we stay. And just kept saying, we have to stay here.
My personal favorite was Malaysia, just because those dudes are crazy as hell.
We are 3 former Special Operations soldiers on a mission to go deep inside the most elite fighting forces in the world.
We're thrown into some of the most intense survival training I've ever seen in my military experience.
Gila tuh. Yo, what's up, Re? Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hai, Re. Jumpa lagi. Ada saya di sini, Wak Lonjong. Salam Lonjong. Hiya. Apa kabar kawan-kawan? Semoga semua dalam kondisi yang sehat, Re, ya. Amin ya robbal alamin. Oke, geng. Sesuai dengan tajuk di video kita kali ini, guys, ya. US Ranger sangat terkejut, guys. Ternyata latihan GGK Malaysia buat mereka angkat tangan. Oke. GGK Malaysia buat tentara US respect gila. Dan dunia baru tahu ini sebab tentara Malaysia digeruni negara kuasa besar. Wow. Guys, satu video dari Arus Story, ya. Antara percaya dan tidak, tapi ya memang rame tak sangka, guys, ya. Ranger tentara Amerika Serikat sendiri yang tampil memuji keupayaan dan latihan tentara Malaysia, khususnya grup gerak khas atau GGK, guys. Jadi seperti kita tahu, guys, ya, dalam latihan bersama di hutan tropika, ya, dan persekitaran yang cukup ekstrim, anggota Ranger US mengakui latihan GGK terlalu keras, terlalu seram, terlalu ekstrim, berdisiplin tinggi, dan ya berbeza daripada kebanyakan pasukan elit di dunia, guys, ya. Nah, soalannya, guys, ya, menurut saya, mengapa latihan tentara Malaysia dianggap mengerikan oleh Ranger US, guys? Apa yang buat GGK dihormati oleh pasukan elit luar negara? Dan selanjutnya adalah kenapa Malaysia jarang bercakap, sementara dunia tentara tahu kekuatannya seperti apa, guys. Oke, ini menarik. Kita akan coba nonton, geng, bersama-sama seperti apa video dari Arus Story, guys, ya. Tapi ya seperti biasanya hanya sekedar mengingatkan untuk kawan-kawan yang mungkin belum sholat, jangan lupa sholat dulu. Dan seperti biasanya saya letakkan link Shopee yang ada di bawah video ini. Siapa tahu mungkin kalian berminat untuk shopping, boleh kalian check out sekarang juga, guys, ya. Oke, Arus Story, guys, kita tonton bersama-sama seperti apa videonya, ya. Aku suka musik intronya ini.
Kenapakah bila nama tentera Malaysia disebut, ramai di luar sana masih memandang rendah? Kenapakah ada yang fikir latihan tentera kita biasa-biasa saja? Tetapi hari ini, seorang anggota Ranger Amerika Syarikat sendiri akhirnya membuka mulut. Apa yang dia lihat dalam latihan GGK Malaysia buat dia terdiam, kagum, dan mengaku satu perkara besar. Dalam satu latihan bersama, anggota Ranger US menyaksikan sendiri bagaimana anggota grup gerak khas Malaysia berlatih dalam keadaan ekstrim. Hutan tebal, hujan tak berhenti, tidur hampir tiada. Latihan bukan sekadar kekuatan fizikal, tetapi uji mental sampai ke titik paling gelap. Dan di situ, anggota US Ranger mula sedar, ini bukan latihan biasa.
Gila.
We are 3 former Special Operations soldiers on a mission to go deep inside the most elite fighting forces in the world.
We're thrown into some of the most intense survival training I've ever seen in my military experience.
Gila tuh.
In teams, we do a lot of live fire. We don't ever shoot at each other.
Gila.
Hey, is that a shark? Whip.
Gila. Wah.
Tentara Malaysia punya kekuatan yang bikin banyak negara kagum. Walau tidak sebesar negara lain, tentara Malaysia dikenal memiliki pasukan khusus bernama Paskal yang disebut salah satu yang terbaik di Asia Tenggara. Mereka juga punya kapal canggih bernama Scorpion yang bisa beroperasi secara senyap di laut dalam.
Nah ini.
Setiap tahun, Malaysia terus meningkatkan anggaran militernya untuk teknologi tempur modern. Menurutmu, apakah tentara Malaysia bisa jadi yang terkuat di Asia Tenggara?
Nah, ini pengakuan US Ranger nih.
Yeah, my personal favorite was Malaysia, just because those dudes are crazy as hell. I think it was the most shocking thing. That was the biggest culture shock in military, just kind of military tactics and training I've seen. I mean, granted, all the countries, you know, like going to Austria and working with their tier 1 and seeing the Austrian Alps and doing combat climbing there, that's like, that was just beautiful and terrifying at the same time.
I got a chance to do that.
Yeah, and but in Malaysia, you know, that we did this swamp warfare there, which was like half swamp in the mangroves, half jungle warfare, half like CT counterterrorism training, and the thing was like they did everything live. Like they didn't use blanks. They don't do sim. They're like, if we use our weapons, we use our weapons. That was the only country that we did everything, like straight up act of valor status, like did everything with the cameras, like having to position the camera, shooting law rockets, you know, not wearing ear pro at all times because they're like, you don't have time to put the softies in. It's like, we can't afford belt doors. It was gnarly, yeah. And so we're shooting live ammo the entire time. So that's just always fun.
How was that from a safety standpoint? How'd you feel? A bunch of dudes running around live fire that, you know,
that you've never worked with and you've never, you know, it's scary. It's definitely scary. So I mean, but
which is, I mean, it's real. How many times we work with partner forces in country, and so we're used to it. But from a training standpoint, you typically don't have that mindset turned on.
Not to mention we have, you know, camera operators, we have producers running out there. So not only were we hosts on the show,
and they're
but
not used to that blocking cameras and stuff. So that's another safety issue.
Yeah. So not only with, like, you know, the safety of the operators in mind, the safety of the.
Just kept saying, we have to stay
Nah,
here.
ini aku pernah lihat
We
nih.
started to get the wounded out and put them onto the armored vehicles. But the problem is that one of the pilots was still trapped in the aircraft. He was dead, but his body was still inside the aircraft, and they couldn't get him out. So we had to wait around until they could actually get his body out. And at that point, I had already been loaded up onto one of the armored vehicles, and I was sitting inside there. And I thought to myself that the armored vehicle thing is nice, but it's a really big target. So I didn't want to be in there too long. And I kept turning around to this little Malaysian driver. I said, you just drive this thing, get it the hell out of here. And he kept turning back saying, no, we stay. And just kept saying, we have to stay here. And I couldn't figure out. I thought everything was, you know, once the vehicles got.
Ini ketika semasa tentara Malaysia yang telah menyamakan US Ranger di Mogadishu, Somalia itu tak? Hah? Ini boleh komen guys, boleh komen ya.
Got there, we would take off and leave. But I didn't know that, you know, Walcott was still in the aircraft. So we ended up sitting inside this vehicle for 4 to 5 hours.
Malaysia's most feared soldiers are the Orang Asli. They were recruited for war against the communists in Malaya and were the deadliest unit of that era, known as Senoi Prak, that defines as war people in the Semai language, a native language of the Semai Orang Asli tribe in Malaysia. A British man named R.O.D. Noon studied Malayan culture prior to the war. So in 1956, when Malaya was battling against the communists, he decided to recruit them along with other Orang Asli tribes. His reasons were that they had incredible strength, they were disciplined, they could track well in the jungle, and they had a great sense of hearing. This unit was so powerful that they had a KD ratio of 16 to 1. For every 16 communists they ended, they would only lose 1 Senoi Prak soldier. They were extremely stealthy with their blowpipes and had superior traps called Belantik, as well as knowing their shortcuts throughout the jungle. They had the highest amount of communists among all forces of that time. After the war, they were even recruited by the CIA to assist in operations in Vietnam and Laos. Today, these soldiers are mostly tasked in hunting poachers and to patrol the border. Yet they are also called for any emergencies in the jungle, like if the person goes missing. These people are among the poorest and the most vulnerable people in the country, yet they risk their lives to fight for Malaysia. This video is made to honor the heroes of our country's past and to those that lost their lives to save many more.
Apa yang paling mengejutkan mereka? Bukan senjata, bukan teknologi, tetapi disiplin dan ketenangan anggota GGK Malaysia. Dalam keadaan paling letih, mereka masih patuh arahan, masih fokus, masih berstrategi. Anggota Ranger US sendiri mengaku, mental tentera Malaysia ini sangat jarang ditemui di mana-mana unit dunia. Ini bukan pujian kosong, ini bukan propaganda. Ini pengakuan dari mereka yang benar-benar pernah berperang. Menurut anggota US Ranger itu, GGK Malaysia memiliki gabungan unik, ketahanan hutan tropika, air disiplin tinggi, dan kerjasama senyap tetapi maut. Dan sebab itu, tentera Malaysia kini duduk sebaris dengan unit elit dunia.
Masya Allah. Malaysian armor personnel carriers, I can't compliment these guys enough. We needed more guns, so we took the cooks and the supply clerks and everybody else, and we put them on 5-ton and deuce-and-a-half vehicles, 2.5-ton vehicles behind us, and rolled out into the city streets with just as many guns as we could. We drove down a little narrow road, getting close to the Durant crash site, and my vehicle came under an intense ambush. In the process, we were hit by rocket-propelled grenades and gunfire, and I backed out of the ambush. And we started to drive our way around the city, and as we were driving around the city to come into the crash site from the backside of the city, we linked up with a bunch of other Rangers from the Humvees that were trying to make their way back to the base. But quite frankly, the vehicles were so shot up that they couldn't even move anymore. They were being pushed by some of the large trucks. So we stopped what we were doing, grabbed all of the dead and the wounded off of those vehicles, put them on our Humvees, drove them back to the base, got more fuel, got more ammunition, got ready to go back out to get to the Durant crash site. But at this point, our commander, the task force commander, Major General William Garrison, realized we can't keep putting these Humvees in the city streets. They're getting shot to pieces. And these are the light-skinned Humvees. They didn't have armor back in those days. So we asked the United Nations if they would help us. And the United Nations, a couple of countries from the United Nations showed up with armor and tanks. The Malaysians came with their armored personnel carriers, and the Pakistanis came with a couple of tanks, and they met us all at our base. And at about 11 o'clock that night, we all drove back out there together. Me and my men stayed on the same Humvees. 3 of the 4 tires shot flat underneath us and stayed there until 9 o'clock the next morning, fighting back and forth and losing men all night long until the rest of the guys that were out there in the city streets could get on those vehicles and we can drive them back out of the city streets. We became the bullet magnets. If you wanted to kill Americans, come to the streets where all of the Humvees are and shoot at the Humvees, which is basically what happened all night long. The Malaysian armor personnel carriers, I can't compliment these guys enough for their courage. They basically kept a driver and a gunner in those vehicles and then handed the rest of it over to us and said, we'll go wherever you ask us to go. We'll do whatever you ask us to do tonight. We're here to help out. The Pakistanis in their tanks, not so much. They rolled in there, got shot at a time or two, and rolled right back out of there and left the Humvees and these Malaysian APCs in the city streets. So we had so many dead and wounded from our task force that we couldn't put them inside these armor personnel carriers. Big white vehicles with giant UN letters painted on them because they were doing a UN mission. And what we ended up doing is putting the guys that were wounded inside the armor personnel carriers, putting the dead bodies on top, and just letting them hang off of the top of the Humvee or those APCs, armor personnel carriers. Which means the blood is just running down the sides of these white armored personnel carriers. And we really stayed there basically until everybody that was killed at the crash site, all of the bodies of the pilots and the crew from those helicopters could be recovered. Yeah, one of the things that was really a challenge for us is the task force ranger. Now, it wasn't just rangers; it was other special operators from the Air Force and from the Navy and other special operators from the U.S. Army over there in the city streets together. And we didn't have the full array of the military capability with us. So we didn't have close air support, and we didn't have naval gunfire. We didn't have jets and artillery to bail us out. We didn't even have American tanks, though we repeatedly asked for them. When we got in trouble that night, we had to ask the United Nations to come help out, which they did. And again, I can't thank enough the Malaysians for what they did that night. And other forces from the U.S. Army's 10th Mountain Division fighting their way to get to us and fighting by our side that night.
Jadi itulah yang sebenarnya terjadi, guys. Ya kan, kalau dekat film kan tidak diulas nih, ya kan? Kalian paham lah ya filmnya seperti apa kan? Dan saya pernah dengar hal ini, guys, ya. Itulah. Jadi memang ya tentara Malaysia itu tidak pernah mengakui yang terbaik, guys, ya. Tentara Malaysia tidak pernah mendabik dada, tapi negara asing yang pernah melihat dan merasai betapa dahsyat tentara Malaysia ini pasti angkat tangan dan menghormati, respect, ya. Itulah, Masya Allah. Oke, kita lanjut lagi, guys.
I can't compliment these guys enough.
Malay Regiment. So first up, I got to give kudos to these guys for wearing a uniform like this in incredibly hot weather. I know we got some of you guys over in and around Malaysia, but man, incredibly hot and humid. Yet these guys are pulling it off. They are relatively looking good. And my favorite part about this uniform, the fact that they brought in the traditional sampin, also known as the gang. This is basically what we in the West would call a skirt. And when I saw this, I'm like, oh man, this looks like they just wrapped it around. Is this actually historically accurate? Is this traditional? I did my research. This is right spot on. And so for that, man, I got to hand it to them. They took the best of the West and they were able to blend it in with their culture. And again, you know, if the white right here, I was thinking naval uniforms in the U.S. Navy, they got the whites. We got the epaulets on here. You've got actually, you know, the whole fruit salad. The boots look functional. You've got a modern weapon that they're carrying here. But yeah, as soon as they bring in that green right there in and around the waist, I thought, you know, this looks really good. This right here, and then when you watch them on parade, you see pictures of these guys actually performing, moving around, very functional. The only critique, if any, would actually maybe to make the medals a bit smaller, although they seem to stay in place, and maybe go for a cover, a hat, basically, that's going to better shield the eyes from the sun. But, you know, for ceremonial use and overall sticking with tradition, and
hari ini kita belajar satu perkara penting. Tentera Malaysia tidak perlu bising untuk dihormati. Mereka berlatih dalam diam, bersedia tanpa pamer. Dan bila tiba masanya, dunia sendiri akan bersuara. Dan ini baru sebahagian kecil daripada apa yang dunia belum tahu tentang kehebatan sebenar tentera Malaysia. Kalau ini mengejutkan Anda, cerita seterusnya akan buat Anda lebih bangga jadi rakyat Malaysia.
Oke, itu dia, guys, satu video dari Arus Story, guys, ya. Jadi sampai-sampai Ranger US ini mengakui GGK Malaysia antara paling gerun di dunia, guys, ya. Gila, ini luar biasa sih, guys, ya. So memang saya sering sekali mendengar ya kalau tentara Malaysia ini dilatih seperti ikut resam padi. Jadi semakin tunduk, semakin berisi, tak perlu mendabik dada ya. Seperti yang saya katakan tadi, guys, dan janji ilmu penuh di dada untuk berjuang di berbagai medan tempur ya. Dan yang jelas satu hal, mereka sudah siap untuk mati untuk negara, guys. Ini yang luar biasa sih, guys, ya. Dan ada satu cerita yang sangat sering sekali ya saya dengar dari ketika saya berawal-awal menjadi content creator YouTube, guys, ya. So tentara Malaysia lah yang menyelamatkan US Ranger di Mogadishu, Somalia, guys, ya. Jadi saat itu memang betul-betul sangat genting sekali ya, sangat gawat sekali, sangat chaos sekali suasananya. Tetapi nasib baik nih, geng, ya. Tentara Malaysia, tak pastilah itu GGK atau apa, guys, ya, menyelamatkan US, guys. Jadi memang bukan biasa-biasa lah, guys, ya. Siap mati nih ya, bila-bila nih siap mati betul lah, guys, ya. Masya Allah, itulah, guys, ya. So ya, macam mana, geng? Boleh komen di ruang komentar, guys, ya. Luar biasa sih, guys, ya. Terkejut ini, guys, ya. Jadi ternyata antara GGK Malaysia dan US ini nampaknya sudah sangat sering sekali latihan bersama ya. Mereka training bersama guys ya, dan setelah tahu trainingnya seperti apa, aku tuh terkejut nih guys. Itulah ya. So, geng, ya macam mana boleh komen di ruang komentar. Oke, guys, sepertinya cukup sudah untuk video kita kali ini guys. Insya Allah kita jumpa lagi besok, insya Allah guys ya. Dan seperti biasanya kalau ada video menarik yang mungkin boleh kita tonton sama-sama, silahkan kirim videonya di Instagram ya. Dan saya minta maaf apabila mungkin kalau ada kesalahan kata-kata selama di video ini. Dan akhirnya saya Wak Lonjong pamit dulu guys. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Semoga Allah melindungi kita semua. Amin ya rabbal alamin. Bye bye.